Fireteam Osiris. The light is green.
With the release of Halo 5 shortly approaching, I believe this was the best time to make a quick video about it. More specifically regarding the approach 343 Industries is having with the campaign that was also in their previous installment, Halo 4. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but I've been a massive fan of the Halo series since the original came out on the Xbox. I can remember playing co-op with my older brother constantly, and that's actually become a tradition of ours to play each Halo game together on release day. Sadly, with a lack of offline co-op for Halo 5 Guardians, that can't be done this year. But it got me thinking about how each Halo campaign ties its campaigns together. Over the years, Halo has transformed tremendously from that small sleeper hit back in 2001, spawning 5 main titles, 3 spin-offs, 2 major mobile games, 1 collection title, 3 live-action adaptations, 2 animated adaptations, 18 novels, 8 comic books, and that's not even including the various encyclopedias, live-action trailers, and planned releases. With all this external lore material, you would have thought the Halo series would have referenced them outside of tiny Easter eggs and references that only die-hard fans would understand.
You have been called upon to serve. You will be the protectors of Earth and all her colonies. There will be a great deal of hardship on the road ahead.
Hell, The Fall of Reach, considered by many to be one of the best novels of the entire series, was actually released before the first game. Yet surprisingly enough, Bungie opted out of said strategy and focused on making the established games the primary canon universe, to the point of essentially changing aspects of The Fall of Reach to fit around the plot of their spin-off Halo Reach. If one were to take a look at each of the main titles of the series, you can see a change in how 343 Industries approaches lore material in comparison to Bungie. Whether or not that's a good thing is up to personal preference, but I'll give my own opinions in just a second. Starting off with Halo Combat Evolved, the narrative purposely starts itself off in the middle of the Human Covenant War. There's no long-winded narration about the start of the war, there's no random NPCs spouting off expository dialogue, it just throws you right in. Usually it's a good idea to give the player some sort of backstory for your game, especially in a first installment. Yet, by throwing the players into the middle of the conflict with barely any context, the player is then forced to ask questions that are eventually paid off. Such as, where are we? Who is Cortana? What's a blind jump? Who are the Covenant? Who are we playing? After that, it's essentially a matter of letting the player know enough information without spoon-feeding details to them. However, once sequels are made, you not only have to think about how to improve the title from a gameplay perspective, but also from a lore perspective. Take the shields, for instance. In Halo Combat Evolved, shields were accompanied by health bars down below it. You take enough shield damage and eventually your health begins to dwindle. However, to improve the shield system, they gave Master Chief an upgraded armor set, which she's kept since then. Halo ODST followed humans rather than Spartans, which made sense to give them a health bar over shields, and Halo Reach was set before Halo Combat Evolved, so the return of health bars and health packs was actually enhanced by the lore. It made sense. Yet all that I have just mentioned has been lore within the main franchise. None of that has been influenced by the novels, comic books, or any other external material. Which leads us into Halo 4 and 5. Now admittedly, Halo 4 didn't so much have external influence as it did provide clear explanations. You could understand certain aspects of the story without external lore, but if you did read into them or find the terminals, you would have had a better understanding of what was going on. Certainly more than previous games in the franchise. The didact being the prime example in this case. If you simply played the game as I did, then you'll just see the didact as a villain with not that much explanation as to who he is and why he's doing what he's doing. However, if you were to read the novels, you get a character with an interesting background and journey. Pretty tragic too, if you ask me. Sure, you could find the terminals and find out more about his hatred of humanity, his tragic backstory, his relationship with the librarian, but at the same time, a person shouldn't be forced to look for information about the main villain. The librarian and Didact terminals from Halo 3 weren't required for information about the Grave Mine, and Sadie's story in ODST wasn't required to know anything about the Superintendent. They're optional content that enriched the lore, not necessary for development. If I have to go out of my way in said game to find out information about a villain's motivation besides a few throwaway sentences, then the game's narrative has failed to do its job. This is what I fear going into Halo 5 Guardians. After the opening cinematics for both Fireteam and Cyrus and Blue Team were released, which were awesome, by the way, I browsed the Halo subreddit to see what people thought. To my surprise, there were actually a quite number of people who had no idea who Blue Team was, why Buck is there, who Fireteam Osiris was, and various questions of the sort. Now on their own, these questions are easily explained if you do a bit of research or have someone explain it to you. Both Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach had the job of establishing its cast of characters to the player, but were still set within established game lore. ODST had you go through the New Mombasa Slip Space event in Halo 2, and Reach was the planet discussed in various Halo games. They weren't unheard of or hidden away from the player. Yet imagine yourself as a person who's only played the main franchise and maybe the spin-offs. Other than knowing who Edward Buck is, they're most likely going to have a lot of questions. Where did the Master Chief get his new teammates? Why weren't they around in any of the previous games? Why does he seem open to them and not to others? Why is Buck a Spartan? While these answers can easily be explained with monologues and expository dialogue, you can't deny that there is a big difference in how the two companies approached their games. It basically boils down to this. Bungie kept their games as the main story, while 343 Industries sees the lore as one big narrative. Neither is better or worse, as I stated before. It's all a matter of personal preference, because one who does read the novels or follows the lore closely will probably enjoy this game even more. However, it will affect how the story will be told to the audience. Halo isn't a stranger to less than stellar expository dialogue after all.
Coming here was reckless.
But there's some choice dialogue that's about to happen. Where Captain
Talk about
Keyes,
exposition.
Yeah, well, you know, he is Captain Exposition. That was our nickname. We cut the level where we, in a more elegant way, described this.
Here it comes. What do they call it?
They call it Halo.
Well, of course they do. Chief takes it in stride. Come on.
Yeah.
Chief knows exposition when he hears it.
Yet, that was information that the player learned about the contained story and events within that game. It wasn't details from the novels, comics, or anything else that helped clear answers that a player might have if he or she hasn't delved into the lore. Meaning the story itself has to start explaining who each character is and why they are there for players to not get confused, which ends up feeling redundant for those who have done their research. Hopefully you'll all see the point I'm trying to make here. I believe that this approach has its pros and cons. On the one hand, taking the established Halo universe and finally bringing it into the main franchise is a delight for hardcore fans. I can't tell you how giddy I got when I saw Blue Team finally working together after reading all their adventures for years. On the other hand, I can't help but feel sorry for those who do enjoy the story but haven't read all the novels that might be left out and have more questions than they should. What do you guys think of all this? If you have any comments, suggestions, or found out that I was completely wrong on all accounts, please let me know in the comments section below. Though, let's hope Halo 5 Guardians is everything we hope it will be, and I'll see you guys next time.